Are you ever frustrated by the marketing and communications at your organization? Maybe you're the comms director and you feel like your days are just in tactical mode, just trying to implement what comes in, what needs to go out, and make it through the day, ready to start the next one at probably the same speed. Or maybe you're a leader at the nonprofit and you don't really see the return on your marketing. You don't really know how to measure it. Is it doing well? You can see how many Facebook subscribers you have, but what does that really mean? You're putting, a line item, big chunk of your budget into marketing, but what are you really getting out of it? I know it can be frustrating, both for the comms team and for the leadership team. Well, I'm Melissa Ressam, and I'm here to offer you a way to really make a coordinated effort as an organization to create a strategic communications program. And that is by making a strategic communications plan that will last through 6 months or a year and really make sure that all of your efforts are in service to the overall organizational goals in a way that you can measure them, and the staff charged with implementing them are able to schedule their work a little better, or able to get things off their plate and be prepared for what's coming next. Sound pretty good? Here's a high-level overview of the critical components of a strategic communications plan. First, like anything else in your organization, you have to start with what are those organizational goals? Just like finance, human resources, programs are all in service to those goals, to really what the organization is looking to accomplish as a whole. Communications also isn't this isolated entity. It's part of that whole. It's meant to drive those goals forward. So you really need to be able to identify at an organizational level, where are you going? What are you looking to achieve? What are your priorities? Then you look at, okay, what are the specific communications objectives that will help us reach those goals? If we accomplish this in communications, does that help us as an organization move where we want to be going? Those are your communications objectives. When you have your organizational goals and your communications objectives, now you need to really be clear on who are the people that you need by your side in order to achieve those. There's your donors, there's potentially legislators, maybe there are executives at complementary organizations or school district officials. Depending on what you're looking to achieve and what type of organization you are, you know who those appropriate partners, stakeholders, and supporters are that you need to be communicating with, because they need to help you get to where you're going. And it's not just knowing what those groups are and segmenting those audiences, it's understanding who those audiences are. It's what do they value? Why are they involved with your organization? What do they get out of it? What do they give? You really need to understand both those subjective qualities as well as the metrics you can track. Are they opening certain types of content? Are these people likely to engage on our social media? Have they been engaging on our social media? So you have metrics, and you also have the kind of qualitative analysis of who are these people. And together, that builds a persona of who are our different audience segments, what do they need from us, and what do we need from them. When you have your personas created for your audience segments, now you need to really figure out that crystal clear messaging. What's going to resonate with them? Why are you communicating with them in the first place? What do you need from them? What do you want them to know? You need to really be on top of that. You need to understand what that is, so that every time you're communicating with them, or anyone else in your organization is communicating with them, there's that underlying consistency that is letting that person know their value, their role, and really what else they could be doing. When you have your organizational goals, your communications objectives, your audience segments and personas, and your messaging in place, now it's really time to structure this into something that's easy to use by everyone in your organization who's going to be playing a role. So for me, I find with a lot of organizations, that's a simple spreadsheet. Now, for others, they may be into more interactive things like a project management system, a Trello or an Asana, or others maybe want a spreadsheet that's a little more robust like Airtable. It's really up to what is going to help your team. not what's going to be a tool that other people in your organization look at as a heavy lift. You don't want them to necessarily have to learn a new system if you can help it. You want to make this as easy as possible so everyone sees how this contributes to efficiency and doesn't hinder it. This is where you start to plug in your tactics. Tactics are the social media posts, the newsletter, the donor appeal, the CEO one-on-ones, the webinars, all of those communications activities. Those are what are getting listed there so that you're kind of taking inventory of what you plan to be doing. And then, of course, you have to attach those to the audience. Who are you looking to reach through that tactic? And then you need to know, what's a calendar or timeline for this? Is this something that's going to happen monthly? Is it just sort of a set couple week campaign during a month during the year? Does it coincide with an awareness month? You want to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable by giving timelines, but also that you're not tripping over other people on your team by trying to do everything all at once. You also don't want to be bombarding donors. You don't want to be asking them to be an advocate, to be a social media ambassador, and to respond to a Giving Tuesday campaign all within 1 week. You need to really have a coordinated effort planned across the span of the year or the 6 months or whatever period makes the most sense for you to look at a given time. And you need to identify who's responsible for this activity. It's not just one communications person who's meant to implement an entire communications plan. They're meant to kind of orchestrate the team implementing this plan. So you have a development director, your communications person, your head of programs, your CEO, board members. There's different people have a role. It's not just on the communications person. You need to really identify that in their plan so that everyone can see what their role is and they can plan accordingly. And at the beginning, they can ask questions. They can maybe challenge things, they can offer things, and it's not coming up last minute. There's maybe some more foresight to this. And that's really what you want, is getting the whole team involved. And you need to know, how much is this going to cost? Are there printing costs? Do we have to buy a platform to help us manage this? Do we need a consultant to come in? Is this one activity going to take 25 hours out of the week of one of our staff people when, if we look at it that way, we think, gee, maybe it's not quite worth that effort. Both in staff resources and dollars spent, you really need to be able to look at your budget so that you can decide where do you get the most bang for your buck, and you can really prioritize what makes a difference. What's maybe a better way to have a larger impact at a lower cost. And then, of course, how are you going to know if this is effective? You're going to need to know that. You need to set yourself up in a better spot next year than where you are right now when you're first starting out. So you want to know, what does it mean to be successful? How do we measure this tactic? If it's maybe social media engagement, is it a CEO one-on-one meeting with a legislator? And you can measure that with, did we get a second meeting? Or did we get that person to come to our building? Did we get them to tour our facility? Did we get, mentioned in the press? You need to decide, what are those metrics that you are going to measure if this was worthwhile? Because you spent time on it, you spent money on it, and you need to know if it was successful, if you should do it again. This is a game changer for a lot of organizations. It gives communications teams a way to really pull in the rest of the organization to be part of a communications program. It gives executive leaders a chance to measure what's successful and what role communications plays in the overall success of an organization. And it also just helps things run more smoothly and can quiet some of that frantic behavior that we are all prone to at nonprofits. This is just a high-level overview. It's a way to hopefully get you interested in the idea and have you asking some of the questions that are necessary to really have effective communications with the people that you need to help you propel your mission forward. And on my website, you can see where I started using a fictional organization. I created a template for a communications plan, and you're welcome to take it and use it. You can see what kind of detail I include. You may be more detailed than that. You may be less detailed than that. Again, it's really what works best for your organization. What's going to make this a tool and not a barrier. I really hope you experience a noticeable difference. And let me know how it works out. I would love to hear.